Hello chess lovers, Soren here, and in this video I would like to share with you another interesting game from 2018 Batumi Chess Olympiad. This game was played in round 9 between Samuel Shankland and Jacek Tomczak. Now let's see what happened on the board. Shankland started the game with e4 and c6 by Tomczak. Black goes for Caro-Kann defense d4, d5, and e takes d5. White goes for the exchange variation knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, queen a5 check. Black is forcing white to play knight c3, cover the king, and at the same time protect the bishop. Bishop g4, bishop d2, and now black has to be very careful, because if we move like knight f6, then white can simply capture on d5, and of course the bishop on b5 is untouchable because of this fork. Let's go back. That's why after bishop d2, black moved his queen back on d8 square, after which Shankland made a powerful move, knight e5. Look at this. This is move 8 and he's offering his queen on d1. But black didn't dare to capture and played bishop d7. But just have a look. What if bishop takes d1? Then white can capture on c6. If b takes c6, then bishop takes c6 check, and black is forced to give back the queen, after which in the end of the day white is simply a pawn up and has better developed pieces. That's why after knight e5, black played bishop d7. Now comes bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, and queen f3. White is threatening checkmate in one, but queen h5 could have been better. If g6 only, then queen f3. If knight f6, then g4. This of course gives white better chances, but in the game after queen f3 we see knight f6. Now comes g4, but already there is no pawn on g6. There are no weaknesses in black's king side. That's why in this case there are not too many problems for black to solve. Here comes h6, h4, e6, and white castles queen side. Bishop d6, bishop f4, queen c7. Black is also preparing to castle queen side, bishop h2, and black castles queen side. Now comes knight takes c6, and after queen takes c6 we also see the exchange of dark squared bishops. And g5, white wants to kick away black knight and capture the pawn on f7. h takes g5, h takes g5. We see the exchange of first pair of rooks on h1 square, knight e4, and queen takes f7. Of course white has a very promising position, but let's see, can Samuel Shankland realize his advantage? In the return, black captured on c3 and weakened white's queen side. Rook d7, rook h8 check, king c7, queen e8. Looks like that black king is in danger, but it turns out that black is managing to defend successfully. King b6, queen f8. White wants to exchange the queens and go for an endgame, and that's natural because white is a pawn up. Queen c7, king b2, queen d7, and finally white is forcing the exchange of queens. We have a rook endgame where white has an extra pawn, but let's see, can white realize that advantage? King c6, g6, e5, and d takes e5. Probably this was a key moment for white. Instead of playing d takes e5, it would have been better to play rook g8. If king d6, then king b3. If king e6, then rook d8, e takes d4, c takes d4. If king f6, then after rook takes d5, king takes g6. Of course white stands much better, and definitely going for this line could have been better for white. But in the game after e5 we see d takes e5, and it turns out that after this move white will never have any real chances of winning the game. Rook f5, we see rook takes g7. In return black won the pawn on f2, rook f7, rook g2, and g7. Although white has a very powerful passed pawn on the 7th rank, but it turns out that there is not much white can do, and black is managing to defend successfully. This is rook endgame, guys, and as one of the former masters said, rook endgames are always ending in a draw. c5, b6. Of course black is not going to move away his rook from the first rank. In that case white can go for some king activation. That's why b6 is on the board. C takes b6, a takes b6, king b3. Still white is a pawn up, but it turns out that There is no way to realize that advantage, and let's just go quickly through these last moves and see what happened. White is still looking for some weaknesses in black's camp in order to realize his advantage, but it turns out that there is no way out, and after rook takes a2, the players agreed to draw. A very interesting game, I think. From the opening, Samuel Shankland managed to get a promising position, but unfortunately he didn't manage to realize his advantage. That was actually a very hard task, and we have a draw on the board. Thanks for watching. Here are more suggestions for you. For more games, consider subscribing to my channel. I will see you in the next video.